Yeah, I found that this discussion that happened, if you want to call it that, maybe argument between Luke and Paul Talk, pretty interesting. Even if they didn't really come to any agreement, I thought it touched upon kind of one of the most important issues that people should think about it, which is the effect that their show, the effect that their actions and words, what effect it has, both on you as an individual and also whatever group you're a part of or group that you represent. It's definitely something I've learned about and changed my opinion over maybe like a year and a half of watching Luke's show. And it's also been one of the mysteries in the history of kind of the show and that group of people that has so many grievances against Luke. Some which are so seemingly over the top, but it seems like Luke and Paul kind of had their back and forth and moved on. But I thought he brought up a good topic, and even if they don't agree, I think everybody will think about what effect what they're saying and what they're hosting might have on people. I mean, we talked about in the context of Luke's show, but all these other people that had a problem with Luke, many of them, Melky, Brundlefly, you look at some of the material they host and the people they host and what they say and the ideas they put out there, which are far more toxic. You know, here you have a college professor who kind of has developed his own Jew-hating, Jew-baiting strand of Christianity that he's sharing on his channel and Twitter on an ongoing basis. You know, it's what could have been an environment of discussion and mutual understanding and legitimate criticism and feedback became just like this identity faction-based war between Kyle and we'll just call them the Brundle clique, Melky, Brundle, Vox Day Respecter, Ash All Day, all these people. So that's what it seems the alt-right is broken down into, just identity-based battle, a battle of different factions rather than trying to have productive discussions, trying to get something productive accomplished. It's just, you know, like Jew baiting and minority baiting for trolling, etc., you know, which is too bad when you only have a certain amount of capital, right? And it seems like trolling is won out over actually making legitimate arguments and points and trying to make some kind of a positive change. But I think before trying to point out what other people have done, I think people should take a look at themselves. You know, I'm actually not proud of some of the things I've said or done online, even though it hasn't been anything near as extreme as what some other people have done, like proposing kicking people out of the country or trying to legitimate violence and just a really intense hatred of other groups. But what I've learned in my time is, even if you're dealing with unreasonable people that are extremists or whatever, when you insult them back, even though that might be the natural reaction, that might be what feels good, you're perpetuating their their hatred and their position. So this is what you find on Twitter, right? Like, what's the best way to deal with a Nazi? Well, you deal with the way we did in World War II, which was, fight them, punch them, whatever. Like, never talk to a Nazi, punch them. And looking back in hindsight, yeah, I mean, I never did anything proposing violence or anything near that, but I definitely went to a verbal battle with a bunch of people, and I don't think that's good. Because if your goal is to prevent factionization, that might not be a word, but that's okay. I just made it one. You're trying to prevent extremism and prevent extreme factions from forming. When you go and fight with those people, you're actually perpetuating that mindset and ideology. So that's something I've learned that people don't realize. People think talking with bigots or trying to have a legitimate discussion is legitimizing their point of view, but I think a better approach, maybe it wouldn't have been as good as entertaining, people wouldn't have tuned in as much, the ratings wouldn't have been as good, but would be for somebody like Kyle, Brundlefly, Melky, or whatever to come to common agreement, get to understand each other. But that group just developed such a toxic and extreme viewpoint with the Jew baiting and everything else. They just kind of became caricatures of this ridiculous extreme form of what it is they were talking about, proposing kicking people out of the country and all the gassing and Holocaust jokes. So I don't know, it's history. I think that the discussion they had was productive, even though it maybe didn't seem very productive because they didn't come to much common agreement, but I thought it was one of the most pertinent questions in the history of that show, What else do I want to say on it? Yeah, but what I was saying is people online, they like to troll, they like to fight, and they don't consider what effect that has on other people. Like, say, look at the Black Lives Matter movement, and they're out there insulting white people and doing all this, and it doesn't reflect well on the people of that movement and what they're trying to do. For example, I think it was Nakba Day, the yesterday, the day before yesterday, and whatever your opinion on that is, as far as the politics and how it happened, and if what was done and is justified in any way, but I did see pro-Zionist or pro-Israeli people making Nakba jokes, and I think that's just stupid. Because whatever the politics are, there were definitely innocent people affected by that. And even if you don't care about said people, it's just bad optics and stupid to insult those people. There are definitely innocent families impacted, like everywhere, So I think the trolling, I think the one-upmanship, the ugly side of people has, thrown a monkey wrench into what could possibly be productive discussions that could have gone in a better way in all right circles or in the history of the Luke Ford show. So, but I thought it was a good discussion. It was productive, even though maybe it didn't appear that productive, but it was definitely interesting. So kudos to Luke and Paul Talk for that.